So what we're going to do now, we're going to do some beef. This is rump and loin, basically, with a rib of beef on. So we're going to cut it down to four steaks. We'll turn it over. We're going to take off the forerib.
Okay.
So we come back onto 4 bones. Normally when we get our bodies of beef in, they come in, so you get your hind quarter and your forequarter. Your hind quarter normally comes down to the last 3 bones. That forerib would normally be on your forequarter. And the first 4 bones from the forequarter are your rib of beef, where you get your ribeye from. So we'll take the 4 bones off, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll come through about there, where the 4th bone is. And we'll just come through, and then we'll just mark it down there. So that's where we need to do the saw. Would you like to have a go, Tommy?
Yeah, okay.
So
I've used the saw once.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Now, Jason, which would be the most expensive part of this animal?
It would be the fillet there. You don't get a great deal with each beast. There's only that amount of fillet, of which that bit you're not really going to use. It's quality and scarcity. The most tender cut of beef you will find.
Oh, the fillet is beautiful, yeah. Shall I cut this?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Yeah, there you go. That's it, lovely.
Now, look at that. Now, that is the most beautiful bit of beef for a Sunday roast.
For a dinosaur? It's enormous.
Well, you can cut this again and make it smaller, of course, can't you?
Yep, definitely, yeah. I mean, you sort of 2 bone, you could do a single bone, but that, beautiful as a roast. We'll take the fillet out. So this is a fillet. When you're learning to do butchery, one of the last things you learn to do is a rump and loin. It's the most expensive piece of beef. So you could cut this down through there. That would give you a nice T-bone. You've got the sirloin underneath, so that would give you the fillet and the sirloin as a double steak.
So a T-bone is actually part made up of fillets?
Yes.
Yeah, one side is fillet and the other part is sirloin. Yeah, yeah. The sirloin is a slightly more inferior steak, would you say?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, your fillets.
Have the fillet first and the steak and the sirloin after.
Jason, what's the deal with the different colours? I'm noticing this is kind of like a salmony pink.
Yeah.
And then in here we're going slightly more aubergine tones.
It's to do with which part of the meat it is. Also the oxygen. As it takes the oxygen on, it will darken up. We hang all our beef for 3 weeks on the bone in the carcass. So it's only certain points that actually are exposed to the oxygen, which then go very black and tend to sort of dry out a bit. But when we come around to cutting them, we actually trim all that off to start fresh. And then you get a nice, fresh looking face on the meat. That's the fillet. We'll come back to that in a minute. We'll trim that up in a minute.
Sure.
And then what we'll do here, we'll take the rump away from the sirloin. So the rump's quite a big steak. It's probably the cheaper of all the steaks. So, yeah, most people who are on a slightly lower budget, if you like, will go for the rump. So what we'll do here, we'll come down here, just right in that dip there. So we'll come down through.
This whole butchery process seems to be, it's all about being sensitive to kind of the way that an animal is created. Always considering where the bones are and the muscles are, working around
that.
them.
It's understanding the muscle groups and the way the separate muscle groups work. We'll bone all of these out till we get down to and tidy them up, trim them up. So we start with the rump, which is one of the larger bones.
So what sort of weight would we be looking at to serve a rump steak?
That's a very personal thing. Generally, as a guide, we look about 8 ounces per person, or sort of 250 grams. But it is totally, I mean, I would eat a good 10, 12 ounce. Some people would eat more, some would eat less.
Tommy, what can you do?
Well, I want to be careful here, but I have in the past once ate 2 T-bones. You would be looking at about what, I don't know, what, £2? Would you be saying that? £2 of meat?
Yeah,
with 2 T-bones, I'm talking about, not with 1. But obviously I don't do that anymore.
I feel most people want to know where their meat's coming from more nowadays.
What are you doing there, Jason?
I'm just removing the gristle off the top.
Oh yeah, we're back to the gristle.
Yeah.
And that's the silver layer?
Yes, that's right, because you wouldn't want to eat that. As you cook the steak, it would sort of shrink up and pull up, and it wouldn't be very nice to eat. So we try and remove as much of this as possible without removing any of the meat. See, what we do is try try and get next to nothing off there.
So the cost of fillet is expensive. So if you're buying fillet, you wouldn't want any of that in it. You'd want it,
No, that's
because
right.
of the price you're paying, the premium price. You want to make sure it was cut and presented properly.
All trimmed, ready to go. Just cut some nice steaks out of that. Next, we're going to go on to the sirloin. So what we're going to do is take the bones out of this, trim it up. What you can also do with this is roll this and have this as a rolled joint.
Oh, right, is that what they do with this? These are big bones in here, though, aren't they?
Yes.
And the difference between a sirloin and a rolled joint is what?
With the sirloin steak, we literally cut it as a steak. With the rolled sirloin, what we'll do, we'll take all the bones out, and instead of trimming all this back off the top here, we'll use that to roll over the meat to protect it. So we can then cut it as a joint and roast it.
Roasting joint, yeah.
Generally, most butchers sort of have a set pattern of way of doing their boning out. What you'll find I also do is sort of push it away, and that way, like that, I've managed to expose it.
And it peels off easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can see where I'm going with it. And it does take a bit of brute force. The main objective is to get the bones out as clean, as tidy as possible. And
Leaving as much meat.
leaving as much meat on there to sell. Again, minimise your waste.
I mean, that is incredible, Tommy. That is a super sharp knife to go through that bone, isn't it?
Yeah, it went through the gristle, really, you know, the joint. He took it through a joint. So it's like, you know, like the individual bones in the back.
So we'll just take that bit off. This one can be a little bit tricky. You've got quite a flat bone there. You haven't got anything to sort of get hold of.
Right. So don't distract him too much with that knife cutting this awkward bit.
So once you get into it.
How long have you been doing this for?
I started when I was 14 as a Saturday lad, working in my local shop after school, and I've been doing it ever since. Very lucky to have found a job that I really enjoy doing, so why change? And I wouldn't know how to do anything else.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
There's quite a lot of different aspects of it. Meeting new people, serving your customers, looking after your customers, getting to know people, getting to know your customers. That's very rewarding, and knowing what each customer's going to want every week when they come in.
If I go into my book, I've been using it for the last 40 years. I know you find it hard to believe, Melissa. I started when I was only 4. I go in there and he more or less knows every week what I'm going to buy. He goes to get me certain stuff. I go, no, this week I'm going to try something else, just to throw him off course. I do that for. Is this going into the pot?
That's going into the pot, yeah. So you'll be telling him what to do next time when you go
wait
in.
till I see it. Wait till I see him at the weekend. He won't believe it.
And again, what we'll do is just trim it all down. The same as we done with the fillet.
Is this all sirloin? The whole
That's
thing?
all. That whole piece is sirloin.
Wow, that's a big, isn't it? It's a big cut of meat there.
Yes, essentially it's your back.
And this is the second most popular part of a cow. So it's rump first, then sirloin.
He's going to debate that over the rump, aren't you?
It's very subjective to where you are, where you're from, your shop, your personal customer base. Some shops you can go in and all you'll sell is rump steak. Other shops all you'll sell is fillet steak. So it's very subjective to
Where you are.
Where you are, yeah.
Is that more the posh shops, the
Yes,
fillet?
that's the middle class stuff.
Yeah, that's my sort of shop there.
Yeah.
The rump, yeah.
So that's pretty much your sirloin boned out.
Wow. That's
What we
pretty
generally
impressive,
do
isn't
is just sort of cut them in half. And that's your steak.
That's it.
Got a nice little bit of marbling in there. That shows you it's slow grown. The more marbling, the more you know it's slow grown, it's been out in the field and it's not been forced. What we're going to do now, we're going to take the ribeye out of the four rib of beef. So literally we just come down around the bone.
So what are you doing now?
So what we're doing is taking the bone off, and if you look at that, you can see where the eye of the meat is. So we're going to take the main of the eye out, so we just get a nice round steak. So we come along there, we've taken
That looks
the bone
like paddy whack.
paddy whack. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
I'm getting good at this. Well, narrating it anyway.
So that literally,
that is incredible.
where we were saying about the seams, that just literally pulls away, and we just cut through. Sirloin, fillet, ribeye, and your rump steak. So if we start with a fillet, that's the Chateaubriand end. So if we take that off.
What is that, the front end or the wide part?
Yeah, that's just front end. It's almost a double muscle. Some people will come in and specifically ask for the Chateaubriand. If you want to cut some steaks off for yourself.
Okay. What we
do about 3 steaks.
What we're doing, a Tommy steak?
No, it would be...
I would generally go sort of something a bit more about
These
there.
are like medallion steaks, aren't they? These are the size of these, aren't they? They're not. They don't go that way. They go that way.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So a bit smaller. Yeah. But good way of doing it. Yeah, nearly there.
Obviously.
It's a little bit bigger. That's mine.
Oh, let's just have a look at that.
And that's beautiful meat. There's no fat, no sinew on there. That'd be beautiful.
The texture of that is fantastic.
Very soft.
Yeah.
Good way with a lot of meat when you're checking it, especially with sort of steaks. Fillet you shouldn't need to, but you can put your thumb through it. As you push it, you will be able to push your finger through it. Whereas something that's a bit tough, you won't be able to push your finger through it.
So something like the rump?
Yeah. So if I take a slice off of there, I'll take the first slice off.
Look at the size of that.
I mean, that's beautiful, but it's like, that's how it cuts in. So that's nice. And then that gives you, I mean, that
you could either have that as one, it's a very big steak, or you could cut that in half, you know, and then you'd split it between you.
I mean, you can have fill. I mean, that's fairly tender, but if you fill that, you'll feel that's much firmer than what the fillet steak was. Did you want to cut the ribeye? If you have a go.
So how much?
Yeah, about that. That'd be nice.
Try and keep following. That's it. That's all right. Following the line of the meat.
That's a beautiful bit of steak. You've got a bit more fat in there, so that's why some people prefer the ribeye, because it's got that bit more fat. Just helps it cook nice and sweet and juicy. One thing I would say, when you're cutting a steak, what we always try to do is just
do it on a forward cut. Is that what you're saying?
It's quite a fluid motion as opposed to sort of trying to saw it through. So they're nice.
Right, let me see now. Right, here we go. So I'm at the... Right, let me see now.
That's a nice sized steak. Yeah,
no, that would be a nice steak.
Yeah, that's lovely. Very nice steak. That's all your steaks.
Well, that's fantastic. Thanks very much for the...
Masterclass.
Yes, for the masterclass. Yeah.
Hopefully you're going to learn how to cook some.